I want to skip one question down because it's more related.
Okay.
So the question about this, okay. So what do you think about the saying, "The ideas are nothing and execution is everything"?
I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, you're asking the question to an operation
Yeah,
person,
yeah,
right? And not, I'm not a creative in that sense, right?
right, right.
But I could see that the two needs to work together, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
You could have a great idea, or if it's a bad idea
yeah,
and you execute well, it will fail,
yeah.
right?
Right,
If it's a great idea and you execute bad, it's going to fail.
right. Yeah.
If you have a great idea or a decent idea and you execute well, there is
Some
the
chance.
likelihood of
Yeah.
success is much higher,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think it's ideas are everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's funny because ideas seems, except when you have like very differential product, like a one-off idea, but it seems like ideas about the same thing arrives in the same time in the same wave, and it's because I think the market or the technology or the consumer, the buyer's attitude towards certain trends is evolving at the same time. And I think a multitude of people at the same time have very similar idea on how to capitalize and monetize that. So there's like a trend. So suddenly you see a certain type of product all appearing about the same time because several factors sort of converged together to make people think about the same thing at the same time. So you could have the great idea. Ideas are necessary. The key point is turning the ideas into execution, right? And without execution, nothing happens, right?
Yeah.
You can be
Yeah.
the best dreamer in the world,
Yeah.
and execution to me is what differentiates a dreamer from a successful entrepreneur.
Yep.
Is being able to execute.
Yeah.
So I think that that's my perspective as far as that's
Yep, yep, that's valid one. So, but most startup will say the execution is directly correlated to how much funds they have. What do you think about that? So, say you got a really good idea, you are strapped on funds,
Yeah,
but a big company can come and take your idea and they can execute better because they get all the funds.
yeah.
And then
That's the risk they took being a startup.
yeah, and then the big company can use this line saying ideas are nothing, execution everything. Then they can be free of the responsibility of copying.
Well, then they're lying to themselves,
Right.
right? So
But a lot of people will believe it, right? They believe, oh, see, because they're successful, so what they're saying is right.
sure.
But they didn't see the other side of the.
So sure. I mean, if you have a great idea, someone steals your idea, then obviously you've done something wrong somewhere. To me, right? You didn't keep it under wrap. Maybe you should have gone.
But
personnel.
it's really hard to keep it under wrap when you're trying to find investors.
Yeah, but that's the risk that you take as a
Yeah.
startup.
Yeah,
right?
sure, sure. But what I'm trying to say, if that's the case, if that happened, will this saying hold water, or is it just an excuse that
I think
people
it's an
use?
excuse from founders to that they failed, right? They're just like, okay, well, we had no time to execute because we have no money. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sorry, suck it up.
Yeah,
That was the case. Maybe you do things differently next time.
Yeah.
And so sorry, happens.
yeah, sure.
So therefore, somehow when you have this idea, you start a new business. I don't see a big company just like scanning you every day, looking
sure.
at what you're doing. Right?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think they have time for this kind of thing. I think that you have time to grow.
Yeah.
Be successful within your niche, within your market, within your geography. And maybe that competitor is actually a strategy, an exit strategy.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think those guys are going to steal your idea necessarily. Maybe you have a function that's a little bit different than what they do, and they're going to steal it. Yeah, but that function is not an IP,
Yeah.
right? It's not a barrier to entry. It's easily replicable, right? So therefore you need to expect that. So you need to find other ways to fight that, as in growing faster, being a
Yeah.
specialist in a particular segment or a niche,
Yeah.
and build differentiating factor between you and those bigger competitors.
Yeah.
So to me, execution is almost everything,
Yeah.
because without it, it still remains an idea, and an idea is just wind.
Yeah, so, but like I said, execution all proportional to the amount of money they have,
Not necessarily.
right?
There are things that you can do that don't necessarily necessitate money.
Right.
If you need money, then you always need to find money. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can go and take a loan from your parents, from a bank,
But then you
from,
need to have rich parents.
not necessarily from friends. You can go crowdfunding. You can. There's a multitude of ways you can raise funds.
Right.
It's not easy,
Of course, yeah.
but because it requires effort, and if that effort leads to failure, then it becomes an excuse for the founder saying, "Oh, I failed because of this," without maybe looking introvertly and saying, "Oh, I failed because I didn't think of this." That's a very different approach,
Yeah.
right? Because the first one is the blame. The
Yeah.
second one is, "I want to learn why,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's always cop out. There's always excuses.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the founder can also say, right, the big company can use this as an excuse to steal the idea. Because they can, by default, they can execute better all the time. They got all the resources, they got money. Now, of course, not necessarily all the, yeah.
Execution doesn't can equate to resources, but it does not. A small team of people who are committed to delivering something
Yeah.
without being paid, with like bootstrapping every day because they're so convinced that they can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That drive, that momentum, that velocity is more powerful than a larger company where you work there as an engineer, for instance,
Yeah.
and whether you leave tomorrow or you stay makes total no difference,
Yeah.
right? Because you're just a number,
Yeah, definitely.
right? So, and these companies, they move slowly.
Right.
So-
Yeah, the bigger the company, the slower.
Well, they've
Yeah.
got procedures, they've
Yeah.
got SOPs,
Yeah.
they've got a whole bunch of stuff, which is great, right? Because you
Yeah.
need them to get
to make it
organized.
that big, yeah.
Yeah, but to get organized, so it's not chaos.
Yeah.
That's fine. But then you have some little guys coming and say, "I'm going to disrupt this because I know I can," and they can and they will, right? And maybe down the line, that company is going to realize, "Oh, those guys starting to prick us a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's look at them," and then that could be an exit strategy, or it could be like, "Okay, we can stop them," or whatever the outcome
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then yeah, execution related to resources and money, I get that.
Yep.
But it does not have to be the end of it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can execute at
It
your level.
helps, but it's not the end of it.
Yeah, you can execute at your level
Yeah.
with the resources that you have. You can co-opt, like helps from other people.
Yeah.
If you look at your cost structure, right? So you small company,
Yeah.
you have like 2-3 founders, maybe a little helper, and say, okay, I need to pay salaries, I need to grow, I need money. Well, maybe not. Like you find freelancers,
Yeah.
you find people willing to work against equity, not maybe full time. They give you maybe a few days a month.
Yeah. Freelance, contract.
Yeah, freelancers. So you've got a multitude of ways to actually overcome this kind of issues.
Yeah.
And you've got to be nimble, flexible, fast in your reaction.
Yeah.
And money counts.
Yeah.
But money does not have to be everything at the beginning. You need some
Yep.
funds.
Yep.
You need to sell
Yes.
because you need
Yeah,
clients, right? You
definitely.
need some kind of
Paying
revenue.
customer. Yep. Organic growth. Yep.
Organic growth is the best.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've got different tools and avenues to investigate and look into before you can say, "Oh, I didn't have money, so I failed and execution didn't work."
Yeah.
Right? But
Of course, yeah.
get on Fiverr.
Yeah.
There's like a multitude of things you can do
Yeah. Yeah.
to find resources that people are willing to help.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm David Beckham. From Auckland, New Zealand.